All right, welcome everybody. We're going to start with some breathing. We've kind of already started, but we're now going to officially start, and we'll just start with some breaths that connect us deeply to the earth, because I feel like we are going to be moving into some very powerful realms today. So breathing in and just feeling your body. Noticing your shoulders, your hips, your feet, and on your next breath, if it's comfortable, to breathe in up through the soles of your feet, and then breathing into your belly, and exhaling when you're ready. Breathing in again, up through the soles of the feet, into the belly, exhaling. If you're comfortable, dropping roots down into the earth, really feeling us connecting 4 points that we're holding deeply today. Breathing in up from the roots, up through the soles of the feet, into the belly, and exhaling. One more for good measure. Breathing in and exhaling. Excellent. I could just stay there all day. That was really nice. Welcome, Jenna.
Complete.
What did you say? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I just said, and we're complete.
And we're complete. Yeah, that was good. Okay, welcome and yay. So for those of you who are listening later or watching later, Jenna and I started doing tea and tarot together during the pandemic. We started on Instagram. It was Tuesdays, tarot on Tuesdays or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it's now 2023. And we've taken tea and tarot, which used to be something I would offer in person at my home in Santa Cruz. We've taken it online for the last couple of years, and we're going to be offering another workshop on Sunday, April 23rd. And so I'll just put that out there. We can come back and talk about it later, but I just wanted to make sure I put that out there. Jenna, for those that maybe haven't heard you or seen you or listened to you before, what would you like to share about yourself today in this moment?
I would like to share how I got into this body of work was really by not being in this body of work at all, and I mean that in multiple ways, like not really feeling in my body, not really feeling connected at all, curious, and always had been. There'd always been that little seedling of curiosity about my intuition, and if it existed, how could I tap into it? How did I know that was? I really struggled with anxiety and managing my anxiety. So I was like, well, what's the difference between my fear and my thought voice? And can I tap into my intuition and learn how to utilize that to kind of navigate and discern what's trauma based in my body, and then what is maybe not. And so I really started on that journey when I found you, and tarot became such a special tool for kind of channeling that intuition. And it was something that I was never certain I could do. And it was something that I really wanted to be able to do, but it helped me grow into this idea in this kind of school of thought that I really have adopted, which is that we all have our intuition, and I believe that in my core, and that this isn't an exclusive club that people, only certain people have or can do, or and so wanting to share that message really with everybody who wants to engage with their intuition. So
beautiful.
That's it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. And yes, and yes, I've told my story a million times, so I'll just let that go today, because I think what's important is really what you underscored, is that this is for everyone. This is tarot, tarot, T and tarot. I was speaking to a client who lives in England yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and she said she laughs now every time because I'm constantly. So hello to you out there. It is tea and tarot, according to the Cambridge English Dictionary, which I'm totally okay with. I've just said it wrong for a very, very long time. So I'm going to have to change my ways, see what happens with that. Anyway, it is for everyone, and it is a wonderful tool to dive deeper. And I'm really excited to get into the conversation because we already have questions from our wonderful participants today, and there's so much to say. So deep breath, postponing that just a bit. I do want to say this though, before I forget. Do you have spots left in your full moon circle, which is coming up? What day is it?
I think it's on a Thursday. I think it's Thursday.
Let's look.
I believe it is Thursday. 99.9% sure it's Thursday.
Okay, so I'm in the wrong month. It is. It's Thursday I'm always looking ahead, right? So Thursday at 5:30. Jenna, can you at some point put in the chat how people can sign up to be there? That would be great. So, one of the things that has become more clear, I think, over the years is that, obviously doing the pulling cards is something that I generally do every day, with different amounts of intent or ritual, but certainly during full moons, new moons, quarter moons, really anytime, but the moons do seem to add something to the mix. Would you agree?
100%.
Yeah. So in Jenna's full moon circle, there is a card reading that comes along with the actual wonderful ritual and Reiki healing for anyone who's interested. I mean, it is really, it's on my calendar every month, and I'm really excited about it. So, yay. Okay.
My hands are tingling.
Yeah, good.
Just thinking about it, my hands are tingling. And I think that this month specifically there's going to be so much to talk about. I'm not an astrologer. I just touch on the astrology from being a severe enthusiast. But the energy, I can already feel it really rising. So it's every full moon and every phase comes with its energy and its potency. And then this one, I'm starting to feel its potency already for the full month of what's to come in April. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. And I do want to talk about the astrology as well. I'm going to get into the Saturn and Pisces a little bit more today, because today is actually official day of the beginning of my Saturn return. Saturn is at the correct degree now to really fully bring me in. So, there's a lot I could say or not say about that. So it's on my mind. It's on my mind. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do the reading, and then we'll do the talk. We have lots of topics today, so we'll have lots to share. All right. So usually what I do is I pull an anchor card. This has just been our way, and I'm a Taurus, so we kind of just stay in that pattern, which is fine.
Works for me.
Yeah. So we're going to pull an anchor card for the collective for this week. this week of the full moon. All right. Okay, here we are. Oh, nice. Our anchor card is, the title of it is Judgment. That's a interesting word to use, but there we go. And as always, I like to ask Jenna, what do you see? What do you feel when you see this card?
I see collective congruency.
Ooh, that's a nice phrase. Oh, I like. What do you feel?
Okay, Shannon, this is answering your question from earlier a little bit. I feel the clarity
Mhm,
of
mhm,
our intent. I
mhm,
feel that in this moment, in this space, with these energies, we have a unique opportunity to really, by like tapping into our own selves, our
mhm,
authentic self, however you
mhm,
want to call it. What I feel is that in doing that, and all of us kind of feeling that pull and that call to do that, especially
mhm,
right here and right now, we're moving into kind of a collective congruency simply by just being
mhm,
truthful to who we are.
mhm.
That's how I
Yeah,
feel about that.
I love that. And yes, I do think that the energies are amplified right now, which goes back to Shannon's earlier question. They are amplified. And I do think our intent when we pull a card, um, can it get stronger? Yes. Can cards be more or less accurate? I think we might be more or less accurate in our understanding of them. Like the cards themselves, depending on what tradition
Right.
you're coming from, um, the cards are speaking to us, and sometimes we can hear it better than others, I think. So I
Mhm.
really like what you said, Jenna, and I particularly like this card. Like it just from an artwork perspective, this is the Mother Peace Tarot. And having the, I mean, these are really old cards, not maybe as old as the original tarot cards, but in terms of looking at how we balance our lives and how we can have greater insight and connection, as you were saying,
Mhm.
congruency. So, yes, it's a really awesome anchoring card for sure. And the Ankh, in terms of eternal life and in terms of the Egyptian cosmology works, I'm liking that. Feels really good. And it feels very powerful. This is an extraordinarily powerful card. So that's where we're starting. So where are we going next, Jenna? What card are you going to pull?
So I pulled from the Moonchild Tarot by Danielle Noel. It's one of my favorite decks. And there are 3 cards here. So I'll just start with the first.
Okay.
And this feels a little bit like what we are moving through,
Mhm,
as far as perhaps something that might be challenging, but it almost feels like it's like what we're leaving behind. We're
mhm,
kind of over the hump of sorts.
mhm.
So it's the 8 of Cups.
Wow. Wow. That's a beautiful card. That's a rich card. And so for those of you who might not have heard us speak before, we really, really encourage people to tune in to how you feel with the card, what it looks like, what message might be coming through. Knowing the traditional interpretations or even the evolutionary interpretations are really helpful always. But wow, that's an amazing depiction of that card. It feels very it feels very eighth house to me, in terms of an
Mhm.
astrology. It feels like literally dipping into the well and the energy of what we don't always see. I mean, that's what coming up for me. And then, of course, the emotional aspect of it is it could feel overwhelming, like it could go there. It could feel overwhelming. But it definitely has an energy of seeing beyond what we might normally see and feeling the depth of how things are connected. So yeah, wow, beautiful. What are you thinking with that card, Jenna? What are your feelings or thoughts?
I'm thinking about the approaching eclipse season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And how that creates that portal for us
Yeah.
to really dive deeper and to get places a little quicker, which sometimes can be a challenge in and of itself.
Mhm.
But that is definitely part of the eclipse season. Wow. Okay. Big card. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to kind of see, but there is a person there.
Oh, yeah. I did not see her. Well,
Yeah.
hello, person.
So there we go.
Okay. That's perspective for us. That's amazing. Wow. Beautiful. For again, for those of you who haven't spent a lot of time with us yet, but you will, I'm sure. My tarot handbook. See, yours is in such better condition.
Well, it's getting used quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is just,
But
I've had this for
it's
so
here.
long, but this is a really great book to
It is.
kind of utilize, after you've checked in to how you are feeling, what you're seeing, the messages that you think are coming through. I use this quite a bit actually. One of the things I like about it is that she offers some healing opportunities for us. And this one, guys are gonna love this because this goes with what I wanted to talk about later. This talks about Saturn and Pisces. And so I would not have known that. I'll be honest. I would not have known that unless I opened the book. So, but that was what I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to read it now since we're here. Saturn and Pisces reminds us that we need to know what our limits and boundaries are emotionally. Otherwise, we will totally overextend ourselves emotionally and experience the results of depletion, exhaustion, and emotional unfulfillment. Whenever you pull the Eight of Cups, it indicates that personally or professionally, you've overextended your energies. During these next 8 weeks or 8 months, whose Saturn return is it today? Oh, that would be me. Okay, over the next 8 months, my Saturn return actually lasts until next January, but okay. It would be a good time to honor your limits and boundaries and break old patterns of overextension. Oh my gosh, I know nothing of this. Anyway, it goes on, but it's time to honor your own limits and boundaries. The adjustment card, which is the 8 in this deck, is the major arcana card, which can assist you in the next 8 weeks or 8 months in breaking old patterns. So I guess the next piece that she offers, and I've always loved this about this book, you may want to break these patterns that have resurfaced. Okay, check. And or go back to when you were 8 years old. Check. It's really important to look at which of your parents may have offered this learning to you. And it is important to remember that you are not willing to be the lineage bearer of any family patterns. So, and it goes on a little bit more, but anyway, that's why I would love this book. And I don't want to make this all about me, but it is my Saturn return, and that actually checks all the boxes, every single one. So to be clear, going back to Shannon's earlier question, before we started recording. Yep, sometimes it's a lot more intense. Sometimes the energy of pulling these cards and the astrology just go hand in hand. And even though we're pulling for the collective, we are clearly in tune with Denise needs to hear these messages. So
yeah,
right.
It's that collective congruency. And I'm curious, Denise, if okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but Pluto moved into Aquarius, correct?
Yes.
And I'm kind of wondering if that collective congruency is of like that shifting, that change, that like death, rebirth cycle, that eternal life cycle from a like Aquarian perspective is very like humanitarian. So I'm wondering if that has some energy in there too.
I think so. I do. I think the Pluto and Aquarius shift, we have 18 months to get used to that. It is going to go back and forth for the next 18 months between Aquarius and Capricorn. But yes, I mean, here we are at the very beginning, riding a very different energy. All of a sudden, literally. I mean, it moved and then a lot happened. I mean, just in the last week and a half since it moved into Aquarius. So the shift, Pluto's shift is deep. It is extraordinarily, and it's rich. And is it a lot about some letting go? Yes. Is it about finding our congruency with the greater collective? Absolutely. I mean, this is, I believe, we'll have lots of years to talk about this, but I believe that there are so many hidden treasures to be found with Pluto going into Aquarius that will help us all. And we need it, to be blunt. So yeah, I think you're right on. You're right on. Okay, well, so far we've gotten through 2 cards. Let's go to the next one.
Okay. Do you want to pull it?
Let's see what gems you're pulling for the next one. Okay.
I'm actually really excited about this one. I'm not going to lie. It's not a card that I pull personally often, outing myself, but it's the 9 of Pentacles.
Oh, I love that card.
Yeah, I'll zoom in a little bit here. So that everyone can kind of receive.
Yes, and do take in the energy first before we start probing deeper.
Portal. Yes, please.
Yeah,
also,
that is a portal.
Looks like spring. The thawing of the snow.
Yes, I have that going on right here, minus the flowers. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. So 9 of Pentacles. Do you want to share something that's coming up for you first, and then I can jump in?
Yes.
Okay.
As I was prepping for being here, this thought kind of blew through my mind. And I think it weaves into this. And so the inquiry was, are you tired of not having what you want? Or are you tired of wanting what you don't have?
Okay, say it again. That was really good.
Are you tired of not having what you want? Or are you tired of wanting what you don't have?
That is really 2 very interesting ways to ask that question.
And I just lay that forth because I'm going to have to sit with that for some time. Virginia, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we got that, Virginia. We got it. No, the answer is yes, yes, no, yes.
Yeah. And I think that it can be both. Is kind of what I came to with that. And the evaluation of what we already have. And I think there's and the appreciation for what we have already cultivated with the material 9 of Pentacles. And this portal clearly that's still there, the portal of our desire, the portal of what moves us, what the passion that pulls us forward and through. So there's a deepening, I think, into appreciation for what we already have. And the tiredness per se is what I'm really sitting with, of like the desire can take too much energy, and it can also fuel us. But if we're so it's kind of finding your balance in that, I guess, is what conclusion I came to as I was kind of sitting there preparing for this. But this really speaks to me as like confirmation of that.
Thank you for sharing that. It's very interesting. And I will say one of the things that I immediately thought of when I looked at the card was just the way I mean, I don't know, because I'm looking at it, from the screen here, but it looks like she's doing some Sufi dancing. And there's this real, openness and wildness and movement in through the portal. Or is she coming out of the portal? And that is the question.
Yeah.
Which direction is the movement? Is she celebrating the abundance portal that she's just come out of? Or is she moving her way into it?
Great question.
I don't know. It's kind of a question, but it's definitely an abundance portal, and it's beautiful.
Yes.
And it's alive. And I do think your inquiries are excellent, because the shift of that, if we utilize that Plutonian shift, actually, is can we move closer to the feeling of that card, and how can we move closer to whether we're going into the portal or coming out of the portal? Can we move closer to that sort of ecstatic feeling that she seems to have from my perspective here? So
I love that, Denise.
Oh, we are philosophers at heart. All right. Well, that's a good card. Now, where should we go from here? From our abundance portal.
Do you want to pull one?
Yeah, I have another deck. I didn't know if you wanted to.
I have one more, but I think it's going to round us out.
Okay. I have an oracle deck today. I really wanted it to be spring, so I chose this one. There's snow out there, so I'm like, I would really like it to be spring. It's the Earthcraft Oracle by Juliet Diaz and Lorraine Anderson. Artwork by Danielle Voodoo Fortune. So we are moving into spring weather. The outside knows we're not. Okay. Apparently not. Sorry.
Actually, that's perfect with what Virginia just said. That's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Can you see it?
Wow.
Can you read what it says?
I can't. Wait, bring it a little closer. What does that say? A thunderstorm. Cool. Cool.
Of course it says thunderstorm. That's very nice, Virginia, dancing in the rain.
In the rain.
Dance
pina coladas.
Well,
loving the commentary. This is great.
Yeah. Okay. Thoughts? Musings?
Listen, we're just here for the experience. No, I think what comes to me in this again is the eclipse season tower card energy, and there's a level of opening. I feel like there's like an activation is how I would like to see this card.
Sure.
Of being like energized or kind of charged with some seriously potent and powerful, fiery, passionate energy.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of being a conduit for that. So I think we're going to, if I were to take all of these cards into consideration, allowing our passions to kind of fuel or charge our next steps in our process. Yeah. Virginia, so good. Embrace the chaos.
Yes.
Because we have no, no
might as well
birth control. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Yeah.
So when we have this energy, you know, what purpose can
Mhm.
we give to it to kind of
Mhm.
call back our power in
Mhm.
those situations where we don't have control over every,
Mhm.
we never really have control over every
Mhm.
aspect. So what can we control, you know?
Absolutely. Well, and in a way, this card reminds me a little bit of the card that you just had with I mean, he doesn't look like he's in any pain. It looks more ecstatic to me.
Yeah.
Like just like you said, just like an opening and an activation. Definitely at the heart. I'm really seeing that. Um, and again, you and I have talked a lot about the Tower card over the years. This isn't the Tower card, but it is reminiscent with the lightning. And we've
Mhm.
talked a lot about how certain cards depict the Tower card as complete destruction, but other decks show us that the Tower card is literally utilizing the lightning for an activation, letting that energy pour through you so that you can utilize it in the best possible way. One thing I will say, something I've thought about over the years, thunderstorms, lightning in particular, um, energizes the atmosphere. It brings more nitrogen into the atmosphere, and it really helps plants grow. So one thing I learned the last time I lived in Southern Oregon, maybe I'll do this year. I grew corn and pumpkins and beans all together. So the corn, squash, beans. And after a thunderstorm, which this area has lightning storms in the summer, the corn would grow like a foot. And I am not kidding. Like it would really grow. And I know people who live in other parts of, the world and the country already know this, but as someone who grew up in a more urban environment, that was like, whoa, big eye opener. Wow, things grow when there's like lightning and activation. And so I'm going to just suggest that that's what that's about.
Mhm.
I'm going to look it up, but I'm just going to go with my idea right now. And let's just see what this lovely book says. This kind of goes with what Virginia was saying. Thunderstorms can feel like the end of the world. Oh, and by the way, I just experienced one of those lovely thunderstorms not long ago at your house.
Mhm.
Jenna,
Mhm.
with rain pouring down, visceral booming thunderclaps, jagged streaks of lightning. There are moments in our lives like this too, when change is so thorough and complete that there is nothing to do but surrender and trust that
Mhm.
all will be well in the end. So,
Virginia's like, no.
no, well, and it's interesting. So, this is a great teaching. As I look ahead at the booklet, I'm not going to read it out loud. But I will tell you that I I don't particularly care for how it's written. It's very negative, would be a kind way to put it. But that also has me also look at the shadow aspects. But what are better ways to say things? So if I were going to revise some of what I see here, I'd say, so there are events that are out of our control and we cannot do anything to shift or change them, but we can shift and change how we respond to them. And surrender to some of what's going on. So clearly, I will just say in this collective read, we want to be ready for how are we going to dance. I like the card. How are we going to dance with the lightning? How are we going to dance with the storms? How are we going to dance with the chaos? And how can we move through things that we wouldn't have necessarily selected? How are we going to do that? And Virginia is saying, yeah, receive instead of push, allow. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just be present with how we can move through it. Yeah. Yeah.
Adaptability,
Mhm.
flexibility. Those are
Mhm.
the words that are coming as
Mhm.
Virginia's talking. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, which is
Yeah.
the the trial, right? That's the challenge.
It is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think having an opportunity, this is the other thing I wanted to say is when you're working with cards, and this is why we're doing our workshop actually on the 23rd, when you're working with cards, the response we have first to the card is the primary message, I believe. Right. And then when we do check the book, if I'm having a response to that, that is, I'm having a reaction, actually, more than just a response. I'm having a reaction to what I read. That's also important to work with. You know, a side note, like, what is there that I need to dive into? You know, what fear did that bring up for me? And it's actually not a bad thing. Like, I could go on about what that brought up. And that's actually a good thing to journal about when we're doing our own readings is, where did I go with this? Why did this bring up some fear? And what is that, or that anxiety? What is that about? And it's okay to go there, just come back from that and remember what the original feeling was.
And Denise, perhaps it stems from your 8-year-old self.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not going to get super personal right now, but I can tell you what came up was pretty intense. Yeah. But that's okay. Like, I read this and my reaction was,
yeah,
you know, and then something surfaced in my mind. And that's the important part. What was this? What was it that showed itself to me as feeling insurmountable? Right? And that's where we want to do the deeper work. So everyone might, but again, always go with your message that you come with. And then if something else comes along, you get to work with that as well. But that's why we're doing Sunday. That's why we're doing that workshop, is because we want to go there and we want to be present and be there for people if they want to go deeper into those particular types of responses to the cards. So,
and hold a space too, that's there intentionally for that exploration.
Yeah, sacred container. Yes. Okay. All right. You have another card for us?
I do. The Queen of Cups.
Oh, isn't she beautiful? Oh. All right, so finding our way through that's going to be really important. Do you have thoughts, Jenna? Share?
Well, I think just what you were saying, Denise, like that being able to like take, like, what was that thing that came forward? That's the emotional resilience of the Queen of Cups, is like that cultivation of, we don't have to like force ourselves into it. It's more of that gentle, like, allowing for what comes forward, sitting with it. One of my other teachers says, meet it as you would a small child, meet it with that amount of tenderness and softness and compassion. And I think that's really helped me face a lot of anxieties and fears, has been meeting whatever emotion comes up as I would a child. And I think that really embodies the energy of the Queen of Cups for me.
Yeah. And I always associate the Queen of Cups with you.
Thank you.
Because you have such high emotional intelligence. You have Cancer moon, Cancer rising, there's a depth to your emotionality and a wisdom that comes through that. And so that, I feel, is what is inherent in the Queen of Cups, is that wisdom of going to the depths, understanding how important the feelings are. And I love what you said. Was that Sand who said to me? Yeah, it sounded like her. Yeah, it sounded like her. I love that. Meeting that like you would a small child. It's beautiful. Very, very beautiful.
And Shannon, this also goes back to your initial question as well, I think, of, if there's times where the cards are really just super clear and speaking to you, that embodies the Queen of Cups energy of that intuitive knowing. And because our intuition and our like emotional depths live in that same space, when we know, kind of what I was saying at the beginning, when I learned the difference between my intuition and my fear, and that's an ever evolving
Yes.
journey that I'm
Yeah.
on.
For all
there's
of us. Yeah.
haven't like mastered that and put that to bed.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear. But when you start to really understand and know yourself deeper and through the inquiry,
Mhm.
that intuitive component adds that self-trust and that
Mhm.
self-awareness, like you were
Mhm.
saying, Denise, with the cards,
Mhm.
helping you kind of really intuit what is the message now, as you were saying, Denise,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then inviting in that, like, okay, and then what comes up?
I love that. It's beautiful. Thank you. Well, let's hold up all our cards. We have quite an array today.
Yeah, this was potent.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we are deepening in. So we have quite a number of different images, moods, feelings, connections. And I think there is a lot represented here around the ups and downs of this
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Anchored in, like you said, that real congruency of coming together. So understanding the human experience is one that requires us to have more compassion. So thank you, Jenna. And Jenna, will you send those to me later and I'll put them in the, okay. So one of the things I wanted to share about Saturn and Pisces, the intensity of it is designed, we'll be here almost 3 years in this realm, a little back and forth this year. So really diving into our spiritual growth, understanding our spiritual experiences, the Piscean realm, our dreams, our psyches, our intuition, but also our sensitivities, our emotions. It's all there. And Saturn says, I want to give you some form. I want to help you go deeper. I want to help you bring forth the treasures that are there. So the times, it can bring disruptive dreams, intense dreams. It can also bring beautiful dreams, but this time is really potent and we're here now. So yeah, we're in this really amazing juncture of a new way. As I consider the Pluto in Aquarius and the Saturn in Pisces shifts, we're in this now. We're in this. So on that note, I'm going to make an interesting segue. Spiritual growth, spiritual evolution. Last week, someone brought to our attention that you could go on the AI chat and you can do your own tarot readings, and you can get, you can pull a card and then ask this chat AI thing, what does this card mean? So I just wanted to say, I did a little more research. I've talked to a few people, and basically they've tried to, quell my fears and tell me it's just sort of an advanced Google thing. Like you just want to know something, it's just pulling from the internet. It's not like when I hear the phrase artificial intelligence, I'm thinking that it has like sentient intelligence and it's going to grow, wings or something and take over the world. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'm having a response to it. But anyway, I did a little more research. I'm just going to say this. Yeah, exactly. See, Virginia and I have the same birthday. I just want everyone to know that. This is exactly what I'm saying, without saying it yet. Right tool in the wrong hands? I don't know. This is a good question. So Jenna, do you have any thoughts before I go on and on and on and on?
the rebellious soul in me says, you can't replace a human, no matter what.
Right.
And I think Virginia really hit the nail on the head. And, you know, the right tools in the wrong hands is a weapon. So I think discernment, as always.
Saturn, discernment.
I was journaling a lot about my skepticism, and how my skepticism has gotten to a point where it's held me back.
Yeah.
And why do I use my skepticism? I use it to feel safe. And so kind of where does skepticism come from? And then where does discernment maybe come from? And can I shift the skepticism to deep trust and discernment?
Yeah. Again,
I think that's why our intuition and cultivating our intuition can be so profoundly supportive in our lives. So also say my thoughts on AI is to I don't feel comfortable using it personally yet. That may change. I don't know. And part of me also feels it's too soon to tell where that road is going. So yeah, I have actually in school studied post-apocalyptic science fiction.
Right, I know. That's
I really deeply studied that in my degree. So I do think that there is every scenario played out in literature on this subject. Let's just say
it's not that great.
And I think that there's a lot of really interesting conclusions that come forward and are worth studying.
Yeah.
So it is fiction, and humans are in many ways not predictable, and in many ways are. So I don't know. You know, I think it's time will tell more. But I think, you know, Virginia has some really, really great insights here in the chat. So it is very difficult for me not to go to, like, you know, 2000 Space Odyssey energy of, you know, this is gonna, you know, bite us in the butt. But I think as far as tarot goes, and then I promise I'll be done, like, on my soapbox. But I think as far as tarot goes, I think that you can ask it to pull a card for you a day. And if that's what you need, that's what you need, and take it or leave it. This style of the way that we read and the way that you've taught me to read, Denise, is it's not teaching you how to fish. It's fishing for you. And the inquiry that I would invite you into is that supportive of your development in your intuition, if that's what you want to do? Or are you just looking for a quick answer? There's no deepening into that. It's just going to be what the internet has culminated and put together.
Exactly.
So that being said, like, the AI doesn't know the difference between, you know, what the Eight of Cups like means to one person versus another. They're not taking in, like, and discerning, is this message really resonant in the Eight of Cups? It doesn't know the traditional meaning. It doesn't know, it's just pulling the internet's words together.
Yes.
So I think that there's that piece of it from an academic perspective, I think, where it may or may not be of service. That's what I'll say about that.
I think that was well said. I really appreciate Virginia and Shannon exchanging here in the chat. What is the esoteric? Virginia brings up that, and that is, there's the academic theosophy, right? There's the way to there's interpretations of cosmology, there's interpretations of philosophy, but where are those interpretations coming from? And I really liked what you said, Jenna. It's, at least for me, tarot is about moving through and deepening and evolving and opening up to a question that allows our own experience, our own soul's development, not just an answer to a question. Although some days, of course, it's really nice to have an answer to a question.
Mhm.
Before I get to what Shannon said, there was many years ago now, I mean, I could have been 20 years ago, tarot.com came on the scene. It seems like it's been a really long time. That was revolutionary at the time because it cataloged almost all of the many decks too. You could choose from hundreds of decks, and it had cataloged a very brief description of the cards. And I will say I did use that to learn. It
Mhm.
was a learning tool. So coming to what Shannon was saying, bringing in a way to draw in mythology, references to the astrology, objective information. She's suggesting that maybe that then frees us to focus on our intuition, what we feel, and collectively moving toward a deeper and more authentic human direction. So interesting point, Shannon. What if this idea of artificial intelligence actually helps us move closer to our own authenticity? If it's used properly, and this is the thing that, the question at hand, I think, is how then do we teach people how to discern? How do we share how to use any tool? I mean, this seems to be a big question in our society right now about a lot of things. Is this one thing in and of itself bad or good? Probably not. But how you use it, how it's utilized, with what intention? Those are all the questions that are coming up. So yeah, it's so fascinating. I mean, the chat, thank you so much. There's it's a very good point, Shannon. Like, who is using what is
Right.
happening here? And so I guess for me, the reason I wanted to bring this up today is the sanctity of the environment, the sacredness of how I approach, how you approach, how we approach any spiritual connection is where, for me, I feel like I can always grow there. I can always deepen. I can always create a better, more sacred environment. And that's why this is stretchy for me, because I feel like that's not built in to this this particular tool. That isn't part of the tool. It is
Mhm.
literally gathering information and putting it on a screen. And I suppose maybe in the future someone will make that a very sacred event. I don't know, but it is fascinating. I feel myself drawn into a couple of that Eight of Cups. I will say these different feelings seem very appropriate. One is, oh my gosh, is this what it's like to feel like you're the older generation and you're not staying up with the times? So there's that's part of the Saturn return probably too. Or shoot, now we're headed into Star Trek, but if we, as a Star Trek fan from the early years, what we know from science fiction. So going back to apocalyptic science fiction, I was one of the few girls in my in my young life who read science fiction. I was one of the only teachers of science fiction when I taught high school. It is very interesting. Nobody wants to tackle science fiction a lot of times. I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people don't. But this idea of what is actually really good, where is the balance? And science fiction very often points out there is no balance. Where is the spirituality? And so, so I found myself this morning kind of going between these sort of like, are we now in this world that I used to dream about? Because there's some really awesome things about science fiction. There's so much that we can learn from those that seem to see the future a long time ago. And there's some powerful yeses to it. But this isn't, I'm on the fence. I'm not gonna, like you said, I'm not gonna be using it anytime soon. So
I mean, it could be argued that
Mhm.
like, those apps where it's like you pull a card a day, it's the same, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
And I recognize and hear and feel that. And I say, use your discernment.
Mhm.
I encourage using your discernment. This is not a tool that you're going to be able to bounce the extra questions that you have off of, you might be able to
No.
ask it, but there is no humanity in it. This is like Virginia was saying, the internet is info. It's not the wisdom, right? And so just use your discernment. It could be supportive for you. It could also confine your inquiry.
Yeah, that's true. And I will just say you have pulled so many Saturn words today: skepticism, discernment, and wisdom. So we have a spectrum here. Skepticism and doubt are one end of a spectrum of Saturn that we need to travel. Healthy skepticism is really important, in my opinion. And then moving toward discernment has us asking the questions, right? And then wisdom changes. And I think it needs to change daily. We are changing who we are evolving. So that brings in the Pluto element, Pluto into Aquarius, which you brought up earlier about the changing of the collective, this deepening into humanity, while at the same time there's these other things going on that excludes humanity in a sense, or maybe not. As Shannon pointed out, maybe it points out humanity, maybe it puts a spotlight there. So a lot of questions, yeah, go ahead.
I think, Denise, right now, natally, Pluto is on top of my Saturn.
Yes, it is.
So maybe that's why all
It's
those
moved
Saturn
off
words
a
are
little
coming.
bit. It's
Okay.
moved off a little bit. So
Oh,
it's,
that's
but
good.
only by a degree and a half. So yeah, I think that's your feeling, and your Saturn in Aquarius is actually, the one creating some of this interesting, Saturn in Aquarius came in and said, I want to kind of clear the way for you all to how are we going to work with the collective? How are we going to deepen into our connection with each other? How are we going to really help this planet and the people? And so really, David said this in our Astro Soul Alchemy a couple weekends ago, or I guess last weekend. Saturn really cleared the path. So now Pluto comes in and says, okay, I'm ready to make some changes. What are you up for? What are you ready for? And whether ready or not, here I come, a la thunderstorm, it's happening. So, it's a powerful time to be alive. And for me, I think given just what's going on in my own personal world, is an extraordinarily important time to remember the sanctity of being alive. And you and I have known 4 babies born last week. And so the miracle of life, 5 now.
5.
I didn't know, but
no, 6 babies. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. I only knew 4, but now you're telling me more. So that's amazing. Okay. So there you go. Right. lots of life wanting to come here on the planet, lots of souls wanting to incarnate. I'm pretty sure the AI isn't going to necessarily have an answer to that one. Like, how come so many souls are choosing to incarnate on the planet? Although somebody could type that in, not me, and find out what it says.
I'm sure that it does have, but it goes back to, it's not a philosophical pulling
No.
like wisdom in from source. It's somebody wrote something on the internet, you don't
Right.
know who, and it's
Right.
pulling all of that in and weaving these answers. And I think that's what like both of us are trying to get at, is just discern, because
Discern.
the AI isn't discerning like what's just, you know, some random person on the internet versus like what's you know, factually true versus, you know, unless they've put those in place for the AI, which I don't know if they have or not.
I don't know.
Yeah, Virginia's discernment's been missing for some time. So yeah, but and also to Virginia's point here in the chat, just saying like we have to know the tool before we can, you know,
Yeah,
debate it.
exactly.
And I don't know it well enough. I don't
No,
know
and
who created it.
actually,
I don't
yeah.
know enough
And
about it.
we have someone that we're very close to who is using it and she did a great Instagram reel. I guess it was last week,
Yeah.
which kind of pulled my attention that direction. And she said, yeah, use it for information and then go back and rewrite it in your own voice. Bring your own authenticity, bring your own discernment. But again, that's relying on everyone to do that. And that's not necessarily what's going to happen. I mean, that's just how it is. All right. So discernment is, this is a very Saturn and Pisces question. So we are going to have 3 years as a collective to work with discernment. And as I've always, I don't know if I've shared this on Cosmic Compass lately, but I'm sure I've shared it before. But one of my teachers, who I am back studying with now that I've moved back to Southern Oregon, I'm very fortunate to have been invited into a small group to study with her again, in person. And every year she'd give us a theme. And this, I mean, I studied with her for 18 years. And so back in 1997, this started, and every year she'd give us a theme. And every year it was discernment. And we'd all be really excited. We're like, if we move past discernment, she's like, no, you haven't. You get to stay with discernment. That's the theme.
I think that's a really good
I'm
theme.
starting to see a pattern. You know, I'm like 18 years later, I'm like, well, all right, I guess we're going to be doing discernment. But the irony, okay, so here's an irony. So I have this great book, which is on a different bookshelf or perhaps in a box still, because I don't see it, unfortunately. This great book, it's a French book, and it goes through what your name means, but it's a totally different, it's not based in the mythology. And like Denise is based on Dionysus. So there's this whole Greek mythology and all of that. But Denise in that book means wise discerner. And the whole idea is that your name is a little clue as to what you're going to learn in this lifetime. So discernment keeps showing up over and over and over and over and over again. So I'm just very excited to share that with all of you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Book name, please. I'm like, what's mine?
I know, I'm so not sure what happened to that book. You know, there's a whole big storage unit in another state with a lot of boxes. So my guess is that it is there. Unfortunately, I love that book, and I don't remember the name of it, but if I can remember the name, or I will research the name, the old fashioned way, just using Google. And,
wow. That's incredible, Shannon.
wow, this is wow. All right. That's very cool. You
That's
guys
awesome.
are fun. Check this out. All right. Big stuff today. Thank you so much for, you guys are great. Thank you all so much for joining in. Jenna, thanks for going on the little philosophical journey today.
Anytime.
Is there
My
anything you want to
absolute
say?
pleasure. This is my life. This is what I do.
Is there anything you want to say about the workshop on the 23rd before we end for today?
This is the workshop's really, I'm just so excited to deepen in and just practice.
Yeah.
That's
It's
that's
practice,
the key.
practice, practice.
Practice.
Another Saturn word.
Practice. It's 11/11. I think I'm complete.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, everyone. Sending lots of love to everyone on this 11/11 moment. Lots of discernment coming to you soon.
Yes.
All right. Bye. Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Bye. Bye,
everyone.
Shannon. Bye, Virginia.